It's time to talk golf. Not just the PGA Tour, but we're going to talk the deep. What is it now? What is that tour called now? The DP World Tour. Yep. Because the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour have collaborated with both events this week. And we've got the Open Championship early preview that we promised. That's coming up. That's actually going to begin things here on the show. So we have basically three events to talk about on the show today. How's it going? Jared Smola, fresh off his Sepp Straka 50-1 hit.
It's going really well after that. That's one of the more memorable hits I've ever had. You know, just how that played out. I mean, I had Shank was the one I thought was like my bullet going into Sunday. I had Straka and Glover too that were, sort of what I thought was kind of on the fringe of contention. And Shank ended up having another disappointing Sunday, and then Straka, man, what a round. I mean, I thought he was breaking 60. I think he needed one birdie with the par 5 to go. Ends up hitting the one poor shot of his entire day on 18 there to make the double. But Brendan Todd and Alex Smalley just kind of withered in the last 6 or 7 holes. I mean, they both had a chance to at least. I thought when Straka made the double, I thought a playoff was the best he was going to be able to do. I thought 21 would maybe get into a playoff, maybe not even that. So was happy to see him hold on.
Yeah, that was one of those deals where it was the combination of a hot player and a lot of players that choked. Because that's an easy golf course. You look at Shank. Shank was 15 under par after the 3rd hole on Saturday. I mean, how do you not win at that point when you know the winning score is what, 20?
Yeah.
You can't go 5 under at that golf course in almost 2 rounds. And then McCarthy again. And Cameron Young looked like the man to beat.
Yeah,
2-1 he was going into the weekend.
Yep. Yeah, that's the disappointing one. Like, Shank and McCarthy, these mid-tier players you kind of get, but when Cameron Young is in that position, in that level of field, like, man, you really want to see him close the door. So we'll see. It was at least an encouragement. That's the best Cam Young has played in at least a month.
Sure.
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. So that's encouraging. I haven't even looked at what he is for the Open Championship, but it was a step in the right direction.
Let's take a look at the Open Championship. And Rory continues to be the favorite. We said this last week. So do you still think that's going to be the case, that by Thursday, by the time we go to sleep on Wednesday night here in the Americas, by the time we go to sleep, which will actually only be a few hours of tea time, do you think Rory will still be the favorite, or Scheffler will end up either the favorite, or will there be a co-favorite?
It might be a co-favorite. If there's a solo favorite, I think it will be Rory. Just because, I mean, this stuff hinges on not who is actually most likely to win. It hinges on where the money's going. And I think a lot of people are going to want to bet Rory as the defending champ here. Which, by the way, I think we're going to talk more about the course next week. But they've made, from what I've seen, a lot of changes to the course since the last time they played here. So I'm sure there's some crossover, but I don't think we can just completely rely on the numbers from the last time they played here, which was what, 2014, was it?
Yes. And even though that's the case, it's still gonna be a big talking point.
Yep.
And you're right.
Sure.
I think a lot of people are, because Rory now has 6 top 5s out of 13 Open Championships with a runner-up and a win, and the only win being at Liverpool. That's going to mean something. 3rd last year. We saw how close he was. So yeah, and he hasn't even won this year on the PGA Tour. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people expecting him to close the deal next week. We're not going to be a part of that. I know that's the case.
No. No, I mean, I hope so. I hope Scotty Scheffler stays at 9 because I don't know if you've caught this, but DraftKings most weeks offers a plus 300 boost for outright bets. They'll tack 300 points onto any bet. So if I can use that boost to get Scheffler up to 12-1, I might just unload the clip on Scheffler and just kind of make that the majority of my card.
So you're saying that what you get 12-1?
Right. Yeah, 9-1 boosted up to 12-1. If I can get Scheffler at 12, that'd be tough to pass
the
on.
only thing with Scheffler though is that I don't like what I've seen out of him between the Scottish Open and the Open Championship. He looks human so far, but it's only 3 appearances. But I'm just a little bit. But look, maybe that's the reason why he's 9-1.
Yeah, I just think he's a different quality of player now than he was. Yeah, I guess last year he was playing not this well, but he was playing very well. He came 21st last year. Well, he came 8th at the Open in 2021.
Yeah,
So
that was just
he's got
4 appearances between the two. Missed the cut last year at the Scottish Open, and he does have 3 top 25s, but just 1 top 10. No top 5s yet in this format. I don't know. I'm just a little bit concerned about all of these. I mean, his run, it's just incredible. We keep talking about it. 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 5th. That's really great fantasy wise, but that's not going to pay the bills for us. It'll pay the bills for him.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, it's just a probability game. Like if a guy's putting himself in the top 5 literally every tournament, he's gonna win. He's gonna win more often than once every 12 times, which is what the 12-1 would be telling me. So we'll see where his odds go. I'm not betting him at 9-1 right now. But again, if I can get him at 12, I think I'd pull the trigger on that.
All right, and then we have, and look, speaking of, I tell you what, though, I'd much rather take Scheffler than Rahm. Me too. Rahm, look at this. 6 appearances. He only has 1 top 10. And he has finishes of 34th, 44th, 59th, and a miscut.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about, he's not playing poorly, but he's a full tier below Scheffler in terms of the ball striking stuff since Rahm won the Masters. There's definitely been some type of Masters hangover there. So I don't. To me, Rahm doesn't deserve to be the same odds as Scotty Scheffler right now.
No, I agree. That doesn't. Yeah, name recognition. Koepka. He has a solid resume, but he's never won an Open Championship, and he only has 1 top 5. And I'm not going to go with Brooks Koepka to go 2 majors in one year at this venue.
Yeah, not at 14. If he was closer to 20, he'd be more interesting to me.
Also, if you take a look at once we get those are like the big boys. Cam Smith. I believe he's moved up now after his win, and we talked about this possibility as we always do heading into these majors. Especially you got Live Tour, you got to keep an eye on whether they win and how that's going to impact the odds, and it certainly has for Cameron Smith. But having him win back-to-back Open Championships is not going to be easy.
No, but maybe this is stupid, but if you ask me right now to rank the top 3 players most likely to win this tournament, I'd go Scheffler first. And then it'd be between Rory and Cam Smith for me for the 2nd and 3rd most likely to win. So I mean, I'm definitely not jumping on Cam Smith at 16-1 right now, and I kind of doubt we're going to get better than that. So I probably won't end up betting him. But I also don't think it's a bad number. I think it's pretty fair.
And then once you start looking at that next group, I think this is where it gets interesting as far as better with the odds. Now, Schauffele at 20-1 and Hovland at 20-1. Spieth also 20-1. Now, Spieth is just a mystery because we don't know if he's really 100%. He just hasn't played very well recently, but he's just such an awesome Open Championship player. But Hovland, Schauffele, you'd probably side with, especially Schauffele's got the win last year at the Scottish Open, runner up in his only really good result at the Open Championship. So he's done that 4 years ago. And Hovland, well, I've been talking about him all year. So there's no reason I'm going to jump off Victor Hovland right now as my play. I don't care what he does. He can miss the cut this week, and I'm still taking him as my top pick next week.
Yeah, I mean, among those three guys at 20, I'd probably rank them Xander, Hovland, Spieth. But I think it's close, and I think all three guys, I would not be surprised if they won.
And then you have Morikawa. He would have to win another Open Championship, and it's going to be tough to gauge Morikawa. But I am interested to see, of course, how he does this week. Because
he's not playing. He's not playing this week.
Oh, that's right. He's not playing this week. So
yeah,
I can't even judge him then.
All right, I'm a little surprised because he obviously didn't play last week either. I don't think he usually takes 2 weeks off heading into majors, but plus this just seems like such a good spot to play just to get used to golf overseas.
I mean, I know he's playing a lot better than Justin Thomas. But in a way, it's almost like that for me, that he hasn't done anything like really since the beginning of the year until last week. And that's just not going to be good enough for me. So I just think in this area here, I'd rather the other players, Schauffele, Hovland, Cantlay's 25-1. I mean, he was 8th last year. That's a good sign.
Well, Cantlay is, I think I've mentioned, he's the bet I've already made at 25-1, and I'm a little surprised he's still. I think he is priced like a tier too low. I think Cantlay should be 20-1, and I know there's concerns about him not closing, being disappointing in majors, but I just look at the numbers, and I think 25-1 is a good spot for him.
Yes.
Just looking at Morikawa, it's been a weird year for him, and he obviously hasn't won yet. He is 13th among all players in strokes gained total. So he's essentially been Colin Morikawa. He's essentially been the 13th best player on the PGA Tour this year. Just by comparison, Justin Thomas is 45th in strokes gained total. So Thomas has truly had a bad year. Morikawa's he's had a underwhelming year, I think, for his standards. But again, he's still been the 13th best player. So, I have some interest in him. Like, if he gets the 28-1, I might end up pulling the trigger on Morikawa.
Cantlay, if you're thinking about it, I would take him this week because of the fact that I like him this week. And if he does wind up winning or contending for a win, that, like you said, then definitely once the odds open up after a day or two, I think those odds will definitely be more like you're talking about, more like 20-1 or better or lower.
Yeah. So Cantlay's Cantlay's 5th in the last 6 months in strokes gained total, and he's tied for 11th in odds. So I think it's a good value.
Now, Fowler winning back-to-back, that's something he's not going to have to worry about because he's playing this week. So I feel good about that if I'm taking Fowler, if I'm somebody that wants to take Fowler. And once again, we've been saying this for a few months, that Ricky Fowler, they're going to talk about that as well. Runner-up at Liverpool in 2014, that's going to sway some people. Why not? There's going to be a lot of people putting money on Fowler, who's now 22-1. And then you have 2 other guys who are going to be, I think, kind of chic picks. Matter of fact, we've both talked a lot about both of these guys this year, especially Tyrrell Hatton. And Hatton was 11th last year. He does have a couple of top 10s, so he has 3 top 11s at Open Championship. So he's played well at times. So that's all you're looking for a player like his caliber. And Fleetwood was 4th last year, and he's had a good couple of Open Championships. So the odds 25-1, 28-1. Matter of fact, Fleetwood was runner-up in 2019 as well. So runner-up in 19 and fourth last year. And he's also played well at the Scottish Open.
Yeah, I get it with all that stuff. To me, those guys are just priced, I guess.
They're priced fine.
History.
Yeah,
they're priced fine. I don't see any value in them at this point. We'll see if they drift deeper as we get into next week.
Well, here's the problem: is that if they win this week, they're not winning next week,
and their odds will be slashed. So they'll just be off the board for me if they win this week.
So yeah, definitely players not to worry too much about. Fitzpatrick at 28-1. I guess if he plays better this week, he has not had. I mean, if you look at Fitzpatrick, it's just not. It's not been going well for him this year. Besides his win, he hasn't really done much at all. And he's played the Open Championship 7 times. He doesn't have a top 15.
Yep.
So
he's had a strange season.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he plays well this week, he's played well at the Scottish Open before, so I'm not even sure that I would, I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, he didn't play well at the U.S. Open until he won.
He's really had an underwhelming season, but he won the Heritage, so that kind of makes up for it. Like, it's been fine because of that win. But just take away that win, which I know is unfair. But if you took away the win, we'd be talking about Fitzpatrick as having a disappointing year.
I don't think Finau's going anywhere odds-wise. He'll be interesting to talk about next week because he has a good Open Championship resume.
Yeah, I'm just pulling his numbers up real quick. I feel like he had been. Yeah, he's not playing well.
No,
his last 5: 72nd at the PGA, missed the cut at the Charles Schwab, 32nd at the U.S. Open, 45th at Travelers, and missed the cut at the Rocket Mortgage. So he's kind of off my board for next week.
I wonder if DeChambeau, I mean, the fact that he's not playing this week, that's a good thing. He's 35-1. I can definitely see that number dropping. He was 8th last year, which was the best finish he's ever had in the Open Championship by far.
Yep.
So I can see his odds dropping a little bit. I don't think he's a bad. I think he's fine at 35-1. I mean, I if I was considering taking him, I don't think you're going to get better odds than that.
Yeah, probably not. And he's playing well. I was on him at the U.S. Open. He's just playing well. He's playing consistently on the Live Tour. I don't know if I like Bryson at Opens. I just feel like he doesn't have that creativity to his game that makes Cam Smith and Jordan Spieth so good at Opens. So I probably won't take him at 35 if he was closer to 50. I'd be interested because again he is playing well, so that's working in his favor.
Now we're starting to get to the odds, the bargains. Some guys that could be playing this week that if they play well, the odds can drop. So these are a little bit more interesting. And we'll start with Justin Rose. So he's 40-1. I know he doesn't have a great Open Championship resume, but it's good enough for me. I've seen guys win before with worse resumes. So I think Rose is somebody that if he plays well this week and doesn't win, top 5, I could see his odds dropping 10 points. I really could. I'm not saying it will, but I could see it happening.
Yeah.
So I'd be on him this week, to tell you the truth, because you're not going to get better than 40-1.
That's probably right, and I think 40 is okay. Like if he dropped any from 40, I think he'd be overvalued at that point. He does have a 2nd and a 6th at the Open.
Yep.
I mean, you're right. It's not a great history, but he's at least been in the mix. And he's 9th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained total over the last 6 months. He's just been a really good season, and the irons have remained awesome over the past month. So it's as well as Rose has been playing coming into the Open in at least a few years.
Yeah, I think that's why there's something about the way his season's going. It just if he's going to win a big one, you would think that maybe this would be it. Winning over, in his environment,
Yep.
And that would be just a big deal. So you could see that happening. Adam Scott, He's somebody that you'd have to keep an eye on because he's 65-1. So if he plays well this week, he is playing, and he has been playing better. If you take a look at Scott, he's got 5 top 30s in his last 6, and he's also been playing better in Open Championships. He's got, if you look at it, in the last 12 Open Championships, he has 9 top 25s with a runner-up. And three total top 5s in that stretch. And he was 5th at Liverpool in 14. So I think if Scott plays well this week, I could see Scott's odds dropping to 50. So I think if you like him, 65, I'd go with that. I'd go with that right now.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I'm looking through all these guys in this range, 40 to 65, just to see who has a good Open history, and not many of them do. Like, Hideki interests me because he's been hitting his irons really well, but he has a poor Open history. Sungjae has a poor Open history. Tom Kim actually played well at the Genesis last year, and I think his one appearance at the Open was decent. So I think he's sort of interesting at 50-1. But yeah, Adam Scott's the one who kind of combines the good recent form with the good Open history. So I do think he's worth a look at 65. It's a pretty good number.
Sergio and Gooch are 100-1.
Sure.
And you have to mention Sergio. Why not? I mean, Phil won the Open Championship when he was old, and Stenson won it when he was older. Garcia's older. And I know he's not playing all that great, but again, they're going to reference his runner-up at Liverpool in 14, and he has 10 top 10s and 5 top 5s and 2 runner-ups in the Open Championship. If he was playing better, like Justin Rose, his odds would definitely be cut in half. So you're getting 100-1. If you're looking for guys at 100-1, now the thing is, though, you don't have to worry about it this week. So I doubt very much that those odds are going to drop because he's not playing. That's something we'll talk more about next week. But Gooch is also 100-1 again. That's not going to drop. That hasn't been dropping since we talked about it a couple of months ago, and he won again on the Live Tour. And he's had 2 decent appearances at the Open Championship, so he has to. I mean, we got to put a buck or 2 on him, don't we?
Yeah, he's definitely on my radar. I definitely prefer Gooch to Sergio among those guys at 100. One guy we skipped over at 80-1, Corey Connors, has gotten himself into the mix in a couple majors now, the Masters and then the PGA this past year. Sneaky good Open history, at least the last 2 years, 15th in 2021, 28th last year. And I think he's good in the wind too. He's a good wind player. So if it did get windy, that'd make me like Corey Connors even more. So 80-1, Connors is definitely on my radar.
Well, he's playing this week, and so if he does well, then that number should drop. So this would be a good week to take Connors. Also, another player, I guess the only other players that I would consider taking because they're playing this week would be, I think there's probably only one other player, and that would be McIntyre. Because McIntyre, being a Scottish kid, and he's coming off a 4th place finish.
He was in the lead. I was watching some of that tournament last week. He was in the lead. Yeah.
That was
made
terrible.
A triple, was it? I think he made a triple.
I don't know, but it was terrible. Yeah, he had to lead with 6 holes to go. Not as bad as Elvira's collapse on 18. Or Richie Ramsey's collapse, actually. He hit the ball in the water on 18.
Yeah, I caught
and all he had to do was bogey the hole. He would have made the playoff.
Euro Tour seems to have a lot of interesting endings.
Yeah, that's why I like watching it. Yeah. But yeah, McIntyre has 2 top 10s out of 3 in the Open Championship. So if he plays well this week, 130-1 is going to be dropping considerably. So he's the only other guy that I would take this week with that number. Anyone else for you?
Sahith Tagala kind of catches my eye at 100-1. I just think he's better than most of the other players at 100.
You think that'll drop, or that's something for next week?
I mean, he's
playing this
week,
right?
Week, so yeah, if you think he's going to play well, I could definitely see it coming down. I'm probably not going to jump on it this week. But yeah, he came 34th last year in his first Open appearance, so at least he got some experience under his belt.
And again, I mentioned it already. I'm definitely zeroing in on him as a long shot. He's not playing this week, so I'll wait till next week, and that's Padraig Harrington.
Yeah.
So right now he's 180 to 1. So I'm definitely he'll be one of my super long shots. So next week, we're gonna do the show on Tuesday. So we're gonna record the show on Tuesday, and that's why hopefully this early preview will be a good, jump start. That since we won't be on Monday night, we will be on early on Tuesday, I believe. And that's because we're trying to schedule Jan in the afternoon. So we'll see. But Jan hopefully will be with us next week. We're going to go over the course. We'll take a look at some of the holes on the show next week, highlight some of them. And you mentioned changes, so we'll talk about maybe some of those changes. We also want to remind everybody and in the description area, you can log into our new Discord room, and you can just get the link on the description area, join the room, and we'll start to have some fun talking golf once the show's over, between the shows each week. And so next week should be a lot of fun. Open Championship, especially this week, kicks off, of course, the time zone. That's always cool. But we'll wrap up our Open Championship coverage on next week's show again with taking a look at the golf course. Then we've got some other stats. Obviously, Jared will come up with some stats for next week's event, and we'll zero in on our picks, and then we got another week. I mean, there's still a lot of players playing this week at the Scottish Open that could impact what's going on next week. Before we talk about the Scottish Open, let's just quickly go over the Barbasol. And who do you like? I know Glover, we both liked last week, and he had a good result. So he's got to be, in this field, he'd have to be pretty strong.
Yeah. To me, he should be the favorite. He's the second favorite. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Taylor Pendrith's at 18 to 1. Lucas Glover's at 22 to 1. I think I'd consider betting that if you're betting the Barbasol. We talked about last week. Glover made the putter switch to that longer broom style putter.
Yeah.
Had a great putting week at Rocket Mortgage. Great putting week at John Deere. Gained 3.6 strokes putting. Had another good week. Gained off the tee and on approach. So he's hitting it well. Putter's hot. And I think it's he's right there, ready to win.
Yeah, we've talked about before. I don't like going with favorites in these types of events, so I'm not going to take Pendrith. He does have 2 top 15s here in his 2 appearances, but he hasn't had a top 10 since Pebble, so I'm just not taking that guy as the favorite to win. But other players to consider, I tell you what, this Peter Cust guy.
Yeah.
What a story. 1700th in the world last July. So he plays on the PGA Tour this year, only on the PGA Tour. This year he's played 5 times, and in his last 3 events on the PGA Tour, he's finished 14th, 4th, and 17th. So that's a nice story. And your boy Bhatia at 28 to 1, this would be the type of week you'd want to take him, right?
I don't know. Because this is another event where you're gonna have to make a ton of birdies, and can he make enough putts? I don't know. He's not. He's playing okay. I'm looking at his numbers. He's gaining strokes off the tee and on approach. He's not at peak form where he was back in April, May, and then the putting remain he's lost strokes putting in 6 straight. So, pure talent wise, he might be the most talented player in the field, and he's 28 to 1. So from that perspective, maybe he's a bet, but I don't know. I'd rather bet Glover.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not saying you take them both. By the way, this is a co-sanctioned event now, just like last year, I believe. I think it was last year. And
I think so. Yeah.
So there's 50 Euro players here. And the golf course they're playing on is the 5th time they're playing, so we do have 4 years of data at this event. But a lot of guys really haven't played here before, especially the guys over from Europe. Now, I don't know if Duffy's playing here or not because I've got him on both fields. So I hope he's playing this week. I hope he's playing Barbasol because I want to take him at Barbasol. Obviously, he's 35-1, and I'd like to take him at Barbasol. And of course, Juan, I took him last week. I know he missed a cut, but I'll take him again at 40-1. Same thing with Marty Dew at 50-1. Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's the guy. Dew's now 55-1. Here's the one. Here's the little hidden gem. Grayson Murray. Grayson Murray's 50-1. He's 174th in the world. It's the first time he's been inside the top 200 since 2017. The reason of that, and by the way, he was 630th last year. The reason, he's coming off a win in the KFT Tour in May. He followed that up a few weeks later with a 3rd in the KFT, and he was 6th last week on the PGA Tour. So, yep. And he won this event on a different course back in 2017. So I love the way that's going for Grayson Murray because he was a player 5 years ago. He was a guy that, he was on, he was a guy that we would talk about every week as long shots and things of that nature, but he's disappeared. But now he's back, but he needs to get a PGA win to legitimize it. Like if he gets a win this week, he'll be in the top 100. So,
yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't even realized that he had the KFT success. Obviously he caught my attention last week at John Deere. He gained in all 4 categories at John Deere: off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. So that's encouraging. And yeah, I think it seems like a pretty good number in this field. I like Marty Doe as a bet as well. Just looking at the last 3 months, he is 7th best in this field, strokes gained total. So I like that. The other guy on my radar, Justin Lauer. I think I mentioned him last week as a long shot. I didn't bet him, but he was someone I was looking at. He's 40-1 in this field. Just a really good putter. Like he's gonna gain putting. Last week he gained 7.3 strokes putting. Then the ball striking has just been good lately. He's now gained on approach in 3 straight, coming off the 8th place finish at Rocket Mortgage in his last start.
What are his odds this week?
40-1.
Okay, 40-1. Keep that in mind. All right. Now, let's wrap it all up with the Scottish Open. And we're now going on the 5th, I believe. Is that what it is? This is what is this?
5th year here. 5th year
here at Renaissance. Yep. Now, I have no idea why the scoring has acted the way it has. I'm just going to guess it's weather.
Yes, it is.
Because if you look at the scoring here over the 4 years, last year it was an incredibly tough 7 under par, the winning score. It's also been 11 under par. But we've also had 18 and 22. So the average is 14.5. But it's like every other. So if that's the case, we're going to have a low scoring week. But it's all the weather, and we'll see how that impacts the game. But it's also look, even though there's a lot of players on the PGA Tour, top players playing this week, it is a week before a major. So you do have to wonder how many of these guys are really going to be concentrating on winning this week.
Yeah, I mean, I know most of them use it, or at least some of them use it just as a tune-up for the Open. But I try not to weigh that too heavily. I mean, Xander won it last year, so if you faded the top of the board last year, you lost. The one thing going back to the weather, whenever we get to these tournaments, in the UK, I try to wait till later in the week to at least make all my bets. I know it's tough sometimes, and sometimes you lose value on guys, but I really do want to get. Even now, I think it's too early to really look at the weather. But by Tuesday night, definitely by Wednesday, we'll have a better idea of the wind, and whether it's windy at all can affect who I'm going to bet on. We have the top 10 wind players. That was one of the stats I pulled for this week. But then 2, you could get tee time advantages, right? You can get the AM PM might just have a better draw based on the wind. So I do like to save at least some money these weeks, and make a few bets on Wednesday after we know what the weather looks like.
Where do you get your weather forecast from?
That's a good question. Sorry, I have not done that yet for this week. I can put that in the Discord. How about that? I always use that wind finder, windfinder.com. I just need to figure out which station is closest to this course.
Okay. So another good reason to sign up at Discord. But yeah, absolutely. Got to check the weather. No doubt about it. It's especially if you're betting big money next week on the Open Championship, you have to. I mean, it's we've seen it just be so important. And it definitely. Now, of course, you don't ever want it to see like it was when Louis Oosthuizen won. What was it, 10, 15 years ago? That was just crazy. I mean, that was the weather difference from the early tee time to the late was so bad that it just wasn't fair, and it wasn't good. It just turned out to be a really bad viewing experience because of the weather. But you have to keep an eye on that, obviously. Okay, so let's first of all take a look at your key stats. So let's get the stats up there. Your stats number 1, your top 10 par 3 scoring since January of 2022, and top 10 in windy conditions the last 2 years. So a couple of players stand out immediately, and it happens to be one of your picks this week, and I like him a lot too, and that's Max Homa.
Yeah, Max Homa, one of the, few guys that are on both of these top 10 lists. But I pulled the top 10 in par 3 scoring because one of the unique things about this golf course is there's 5 par 3s. So, par 3 scoring definitely has a bigger impact than usual. Now, it's most of the names you'd expect on this top 10, right? I mean, the best players generally are the best par 3 scorers. But, Luke Donald makes an appearance. I'm sure that's on just a few rounds. It's a pretty small sample, I'm sure. I think the fact that Ricky Fowler's at 6 on this list, despite having a bad 2022, is interesting. Then you have Tommy Fleetwood 9, Tom Kim shows up here 10th. And then same deal, windy conditions. It's a lot of the best players are also the best in the wind. Justin Thomas though has always been an excellent wind player, so he's a guy. He didn't make my bets, but last I looked, he was 50-1. If we get to Wednesday and it's going to be really windy and Thomas is still 50-1, I might end up adding him. You can see the rest of the top 10 there. I also looked at some of the bigger names who aren't good in the wind. Ricky Fowler is 100th in this field in windy conditions. Now, again, that's looking at the last 2 years, so it's pulling all his numbers from 2022 when he just wasn't good in general. So that's bringing him down a bit. Tom Kim is 81st in this field in windy conditions. Tommy Fleetwood is 47th in this field in windy conditions. So those are 3 of the guys who kind of popped out to me as being, worse than usual in the wind.
Yeah, Thomas, we both didn't buy the 14-1 number after finally showing something, and then sure enough, things did not work out for him last time out. But now he's back at a level that he does become interesting. He was 40-1. Let's see. Let me see if his numbers did drop to 50.
He's still 40 somewhere. Okay.
But yeah, he could be 50 somewhere.
As I say, shop around. I think I saw him 50 somewhere this afternoon. But I mean,
so yeah, check the weather, and if the conditions are, and that's the thing. If the conditions are fair and windy across the board, then that's a good sign for someone like Justin Thomas. If you're getting good odds, why not? Because look, if I know, last year Schauffele won, but keep in mind that out of the 4 times they played at this golf course, Schauffele was the first good player to win. So there have been odds like pretty much out there. And I know last year, of course, it was also, the last couple of years, well, last year you've had the PGA Tour, so that's
right.
That's different. But still, if you take a look overall at if you want to consider that there are any sort of trends for this event, without the PGA Tour players, the average world ranking for the 4 winners is 129. That's because we've seen 83, 183, and 240. So it's possible you might get. Justin Thomas would be in the mix. He'd be a lot better than that, even though he's now 20. Boy, he's 20, I think, in the world. Justin Thomas.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah, he's on the bubble for the playoffs. I think he's right around 70 right now. So he's got plenty. He's got plenty of motivation this week. That's one thing you could say about him. He's not going to be looking ahead to the Open.
Well, as Jan said, he's the personal stuff should be behind him. Maybe that's why we saw a glimpse of it a few weeks ago. He just has to get into a rhythm now. All right, so let's take a look at our picks. So I have 5 picks. Jared has 5 picks. Okay, and we did not take Scheffler or McIlroy. So that's not a big surprise, especially the week before a major. So we've talked about Scheffler, talked about McIlroy. Look, McIlroy's last 5 events this year: 7, 7, 7, 9, and second. So not as good as Scheffler, but still strong. But surprisingly, he's played this event twice at this golf course, and he hasn't really played it very well. So I think that's important to note, especially at 7-1 with a major that that's what he's eyeing next week.
Yep.
So no reason to take those 2 guys, I think, especially McIlroy. Schauffele and Cantlay are 14-1. Defending champ Schauffele, so winning back-to-back, not so easy. He's got a nice run going with 9 straight top 25s, 5 of those top 10s, 3 of those top 5s. But I went ahead and took Cantlay as my top choice.
Wow.
His odds did drop to 12-1, I believe. But he was 4th last year. He's trending in the right direction. He's got 11 straight top 30s. And how often have we compared Patrick Cantlay to Xander Schauffele? So I figured, you know what? Maybe Cantlay will do what Schauffele did last year and win the Scottish Open. And I think it's a good, good last year, both at Scottish Open and in the Open Championship. So maybe he's got something going. And I think this would be a week I think that even though I know he's looking forward to next week as well, he hasn't had a win in a while. He could use one.
Right. He's done everything but win this year. The numbers are awesome. They've been awesome all year across the board, really. He's done everything but win. I hope you're a week early with this pick because, I'm on him for next week. But yeah, I definitely think it seems like he's got comfortable with golf in the UK, at least last year with those 2 results.
Okay, and then you got Hovland and Fowler at 18-1. But Hovland missed the cut last year here, but he was not really playing well last year at this time. He's kind of lost a little bit maybe of his concentration since his win. So I'm looking like, again, it's about next week for me with Hovland and Fowler. I don't know. He's won this event at a different golf course in 2015. He's playing hot, but you do wonder after a win, which hasn't happened in a few years. I would also think that he's more concerned with next week.
Yeah, Fowler's 5th in my model this week, ahead of Hovland even. So, he's priced where he belongs. I don't think there's value in 18-1 for Ricky. So.
Yeah, because I'd rather, in this area here, I'd rather go with the 2 options we went with at 20-1, your top pick, Tyrrell Hatton, and my second choice, Tommy Fleetwood. How can we not take these guys? Again, Hatton I would have taken myself because Hatton was like Fowler for me. I was going to keep taking him. And why not? Now he's back in more of his home grounds, Hatton. He's played here 3 times, all top 25s. He's got 7 straight top 30s. And Fleetwood's played here 3 times, all top 30s, 2 top 5s, and a runner-up. And he's been a little inconsistent, but he's come really close to winning on the PGA Tour. So, yeah, I think both of these guys are really good plays this week.
Yep. I mean, Hatton to me has had the best season among any player who hasn't won on the PGA Tour yet this year. So I think, he deserves to get a win. He's playing well, like you said. He's been good here. Plenty of link success in his career. He has plenty of good Open finishes. I think he has 3 top 11s at the Open. So it's an ideal spot, I think, for Hatton to kind of get the win that he's been trending toward all year.
Well, this is a good time to throw in the one and done because we're a lot of these some of the guys that we've already talked about. This isn't really, if you still have them. This is just a regular event, right?
Yes, a $9 million prize pool.
Yeah, so that's not much. So I don't think anybody's going to use up one of those guys, but we're starting to get into that other territory now. So if you still have Hatton or Fleetwood, I would think that these would be good choices this week.
Yeah,
unless you want to take them next week and try to steal something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, there's only, what is it, six events left? Yeah, six events left in at least the one and done that we're in. So at this point, I wouldn't worry about saving guys. I think Hatton, Fleetwood, and even I think Fitzpatrick, who we'll get to next, are all kind of the range I'm looking at for one and done this week.
Yeah, if you still have Fitzpatrick, I'd want to use him up now.
Yep.
So, because Fitzpatrick was 6th last year and 2nd the year before that, so he has a couple of good results here. But as we've said, the only thing is he only has 1 top 5 on the year, and that was his win at RBC. Right. But again, this is I think this is a good environment for him. I could see him. I understand what happened last year anyway when he came over here because he had just won the U.S. Open, so he wasn't going to win right after winning the U.S. Open. It just wasn't going to happen. This year, I think he has a better chance of actually maybe doing something. But again, he just hasn't had a great year.
He hasn't, but I think Fitzpatrick is someone you want to use at some point in one and done. And I think if you haven't used him yet, this, I think, is the best spot. Because I do want to use someone better next week with the bigger prize pool. So I think this is the spot for Fitzpatrick if you still have him.
Spieth was 10th last year here in his only appearance, but he's missed 3 of his 5 cuts. If you haven't taken him in one and done, I just think you wait and see if he gets going again, because you still have the playoffs if he starts to play better again.
Yeah, or even next week for Spieth. If he shows some flashes this week, I think I'd rather use him next week.
And then Lowry, you got 35-1, 40-1 area, and Lowry and Homa are the 2 guys. So Homa's your second choice, and I would have definitely taken Homa as well. The odds are excellent. He had a top 20 last year here. He's coming off a positive result at Rocket Mortgage, which he needed. Yep. So the combination of that, and again, you looked at the stats that we talked about, and you know what? Maybe this is, because this is definitely a better week and a consideration for one and done as well.
For sure. Now, I think Homa's someone that you could definitely save for one of the events back stateside as well, but I definitely think he's a viable play this week for sure. Maybe not next week considering his major history, but yeah, first in par 3 scoring over the last year and a half. He's good. He's good in the wind. So if it gets windy, that's good for him. Like you said, 16th here last year. The result at the Rocket Mortgage, I think, even more encouraging than the 21st place finish, because he actually lost strokes putting in that start, which is rare for Max Homa. The approach play was really strong. It was his best approach tournament since March, since the Players in March.
Okay.
So I'm hoping he sort of found something again.
And by the way, Lowry almost made my picks this week. He hasn't had a top 10 in his last 11, but he has 4 top 20s in his last 5. And yes, of course, you're looking at next week, but he's already won an Open Championship. It's not something that he's not. Look, he's thinking about it. I get it, but he's got that win, he wants a win. I mean, he hasn't had a win in a few years, so I think if he gets off to a good start, he's going to try to win this event. And again, he's on more common ground. It's a home game for some of these guys, and you're getting a decent 35-1.
Yeah, Lowry. I mean, I've bet Lowry a lot this year just because the ball striking numbers kind of suck me in. But he's gained putting in 4 of his last 5 now, and that's
top
been his
20s.
problem.
Yeah,
all year exactly. So maybe he's found something with the putter.
Okay, then Justin Rose is 40-1. If you haven't used him yet on one and done as well, it's a consideration.
So I just realized this now. Rose is the same odds this week as he is next week. And the field's good this week, but it's not as strong as it's going to be next week. So if you like Rose at 40 for next week, you should probably bet him 40 here.
Yeah, he also almost made my list. But I was thinking about Rose and Scott, but I said, you know what? I'm going to take him next week because that's what they're looking at.
That's fair.
But the odds are so good. Scott's 50-1 instead of 65-1. But like you said, Rose is 40-1 this week with a weaker field. So why not take Rose this week if you like him next week? He's got, and we talked about his numbers, stats. He's got 7 top 25s in his last 9 results wise. And he's coming off a 4th place finish. He already got a jump start here too. He played at the British, whatever it was, the British Masters a couple of weeks ago. So he got here early, finished 4th, and that could be an advantage. So 69th here last year, that's not all that great. But he wasn't playing as good as he was playing this year.
Exactly. Yeah.
The 45-1 range, I guess the guy to note would be the Swedish kid is making his first appearance, had a very solid 4th place finish last week. But we're still getting a little crazy as far as thinking that he's going to win, especially last week. That's a little bit different because of the golf course and the field, but forget this week. That would be incredible if he'd pull that off. By the way, Jan is picking him up on her fantasy team this week.
Smart move, Jan. Yeah, he's awesome. He had a bad Saturday last week. Otherwise, he would have been right there.
And Sam Burns, who also does not do too well in majors, does have an 18th a couple of years ago here, but he hasn't had a top 5 since his match play win. So not a good combo for Burns. Then we go to your third choice, and you mentioned him a little bit ago, Corey Connors.
Yep.
So that's a bit of a surprise because he's played here twice, and he hasn't looked good at all. But he's coming off a 9th at Travelers, and the Canadians are having a heck of a year. So Corey Connors, why are you going with him this week? And would you consider him a one and done this week?
Yeah, I would. If you don't have Hatton and Fitzpatrick and Spieth, like if you have to go farther down the board, I like Connors again. Like you said, not a great course history here, but a good open history. So like he's had success on this style of golf course, and just continues to hit the ball really well as he usually does. He has his last 4. He's gone 9th miscut, 20th miscut, but that's with losing strokes putting in all 4 of those events. So, and he had gained strokes putting in his 4 previous before that. So like if he can just turn that putter around, the ball striking has been good enough really for him to win. So I think 50-1 feels like a good number for Connors.
All right. And Scott's also in this 50-1 group. 5 top 30s in his last 6, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5. He has not played this golf course before. But again, I think he's not a bad long shot play. My third choice is next up, and I really like this pick trend-wise, and that's Alex Smalley at 60-1. Now, Smalley I'm not sure many people would realize this, but he played in this event last year and finished 10th.
Yep.
And he's coming off the runner-up. We talked about it last week. We both liked him last week. He just missed our picks last week. So now I get to pick him this week. He's got 3 top 25s in his last 4, 2 top 10s runner-up, 10th last year here. And here's the 2 trends I'm talking about. Because when you have only 4 events to go on, it's slim pickings trying to look for trends at a golf course. Yep. But the only 2 that I came up with, and this is a little bit weird. It's funky, but if you take a look at the players that have won here, the 4 players you got. Actually, we'll talk about there's only 4, so 3 out of the 4 either had a win or a runner-up in the event prior to winning here.
Oh, wow.
So that's an Alex Smalley trend. 3 out of the 4, win or runner-up, the event before winning here. And if you look at it, the last 3 winners, of course you don't count the first guy, the last 3 winners all played here the year before and only made that their previous appearance. So that means the last 3 winners had played the year before only and then played the next year and won. And Smalley, again, made 1 appearance last year, finished 10th. So I like those 2 trends for Smalley. And again, he's playing well. That's the real reason. And I think he would fit.
No one's hitting their irons better than Alex Smalley right now. That sounds crazy to say, but it's true. His last 3 events. And he's gotten progressively better, too. He gained 5.8 at Travelers, 7.3 strokes gained approach at Rocket Mortgage, 8 strokes gained approach at John Deere. That was easily best in the field. The next best was 6.3. So he was easily the best iron player in the field. Hey, he's hot. The finish last year was good. 60-1 just it doesn't. I don't know. It feels low, but everything else is definitely trending in his favor.
Yeah, but again, we're now at the point where we're everybody else left on the field. There really isn't anybody else playing better than him that's remaining on this field. So 60-1 is okay in my mind.
That is true.
Yeah, I'd like 80, but this isn't the Open Championship. It's a Scottish Open. And we can see a mini long shot winning here this week. That could definitely happen. And then also, let's round out we have 2 long shots each. And mine go first. You went real big long shots. My 2 long shots, I've got your boy Cam Davis.
Nice. As
one of my long shots. He's trending in the right direction. He's 110-1. And my other long shot is McIntyre at 90-1. We talked about, he choked on Sunday, get that. But it was a 4th place finish. And when you and again, this is his home country, so he'll have the fan support. And then you take a look overall at his resume, and McIntyre has 2 top 20s out of 4 at this golf course. And we talked about his Open Championship resume, which is strong. So this has been a pretty decent couple of weeks for him over the last few years, and you're getting 90-1. So those are my 2 long shots. What do you think about those 2 guys?
Yeah, Cam Davis for sure is really still on my radar. Again, I've left some money on the table still, so I can make another bet or 2, probably on Wednesday. And Davis, we've talked about it. It was a disappointing start to the season, but over the last month or 2, he's definitely kind of regained the form that had me so excited about him coming into the year.
And then we get to your 2 long shots, and I know you don't venture too much into the DP World Tour field, right. But when you did, you surprised me. Not that Jordan Smith hasn't played well. He's one of the favorites, almost. One of the top contenders each week. In a DP World Tour event. But why specifically this week at 130-1?
Yeah, I did do some digging through the DP World Tour stats because I wanted to add someone from there for this tourney, and Smith stuck out to me. He came 24th here last year for starters. He's had a nice season on the European Tour. A bunch of top 25s, a couple top 10s. And then also the last time we saw him on the PGA Tour, he came 20th at the U.S. Open. And that was, he gained 6.7 strokes on approach in the U.S. Open. That was, I'm pulling it up right now, that was 6th best in the entire field. So he's someone that just stuck out to me as a pretty nice talent down here at 130 to 1.
Yeah, he actually, I'm trying to remember. I know, when was the last time he had a win? Because I remember taking him like about a year. I took him like a year or two ago, and I remember, yeah, he had his first win since 2017 last year. Okay, yeah, last year was a big year. He had a win and 2 runner-ups.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, Jordan Smith.
Next up, Austin Eckroat.
Yeah.
So we talked about him a couple of weeks ago being a hot young kid to keep an eye on, and why Eckroat this week?
Yeah, that's really it. He's the Rocket Mortgage. He missed the cut, disappointing. He just didn't hit the ball well, didn't putt well, but was just red hot in the 6 or 7 starts prior to that. I'm just going to stay on. Kind of like we did with Hubbard for a while there. And Hubbard, by the way, had a nice bounce back.
Yeah, he did
last week. I was worried he was going to win for a while and break my heart, but I'm just going to stick with Eckroat at 180 to 1, just a long shot.
All right. And as far as other long shots this week, you take a look. There are some guys I'm going to put a buck or two on. Alexander Bjork. So speaking about DP Tour World Tour players, here's a guy to keep an eye on. He's 33, so he's not a young kid, but he's made 6 for 6 cuts in this event. 6 top 10s in his last 7 on the DP Tour World Tour, with 3 top 5s, and he was 4th last week. That's a really good stretch. 6 top 10s in his last 7. So he's 110 to 1. So I'm keeping an eye on him. And I think he would probably be the top guy. Now, Harrington's playing this week, by the way. Podrick's playing this week. We'll talk more about him next week. Thurston Lawrence, I'm just mentioning him because next week, forget it. But he's got 2 wins since December, and he was 24th here last year. He's 250 to 1.
Oh, wow.
He's got 2 wins on the European Tour, and he's actually been one of their, and not that many players have 2 wins on the DP Tour World Tour since December, and he's one of them. And now I don't know if his odds have increased since I looked at 250 to 1, but that's what it was earlier today. And also another guy that you want to keep an eye on for the future is Daniel Hillier. Now he's making his first appearance in his last 4 events, 3 top 5s and a win. He had a big Sunday a couple of weeks ago to win. I think that was that British Masters event. He's up to 136th in the world, and I like this kid. I think he's got a good future. So keep an eye on Daniel Hillier as maybe somebody that we'll talk more of in the future. He's 250 to 1 as well. By the way, Higo's 250 to 1.
Yes, Higo's on my radar just because he really for the first time in a while popped up on the radar last week. I think he had a bad weekend to fall back a bit, but he was on my radar. I like the Lawrence call. I might end up adding him. I know he's had a good season over in Europe. Hasn't done anything on the PGA Tour this year. He's missed 3 of his 4 cuts. The other was a 62nd place finish, but 250 to 1. Why not? Brandon Wu was the last kind of long shot I've been looking at. I've bet him a few times this year. He had a good finish here last year.
Yep. 6th last year.
6th place. Yeah.
Yep.
And he was 180 to 1 last I looked. Down to 150 to 1, but I'd still take a shot on him at 150.
Eric Cole is 90 to 1. We've talked about Eric Cole a bunch lately. So he's again 90 to 1. Rye, we've talked about a lot lately. He won this event back in 2020. He's 75 to 1. You mentioned Thagala before. He's 75 to 1 in the event this week. All right. So there you go. Right now, who's your favorite one and dones?
So yeah, I was looking through while we were doing this. I haven't used Fitzpatrick yet on my good team. By the way, I had Shank on my good team last week, so I was really hoping he was going to win. But he ended up finishing 5th or 4th, I think. So it was a pretty nice payday. So I will use Fitzpatrick on that team, and then I mean the other team's dead. I'll probably take some long shot, not long shot, but someone off the board for that one. Looks like I have. Minwoo Lee we didn't talk about because I don't think he's a good bet at 35-1. He
35
to 1
here.
1.
Yeah, that's crazy.
35. Well,
yeah.
I mean, he won here. I think it was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's when he was 240th in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and the field was not nearly as strong.
No.
But so I think he's way overpriced as a bet. But maybe as a one and done, I'll take a shot on him or something.
Yeah, the other kid to keep an eye on, and we talked about the hose guards, earlier this year, but Rasmus is coming up a huge win. Of course, everybody choked around him to win, but he had a 64 on Sunday to put himself in position to win, and everybody choked down the stretch. 3 players choked, and he went into the 5-hole playoff with Elvira and won. He was 10th last year at the Scottish Open. So both hose guards, I believe, are playing this week in this event. Other players that I'm sure we'll talk a lot more of in the future. And yes, Discord. So check out Discord. Jared's gonna let you know who his 2 picks are gonna be for one and done. I don't think I've taken Cantlay yet this year, so I'll probably just take him this week in my one and dones because I'm not taking him next week in a major. So
I would save him for a playoff event probably.
For which one?
For one of the playoff events.
Well, which ones? How many? 2 of the 3 are the high priced, and the other one is not. First one is just a regular one, right? Is that how it works?
Let me pull it up again. I think. No, the FedEx St. Jude and the BMW Championship. So the last 2 events for one and done are both a $20 million.
Oh, that's right.
Prize pool.
The third one doesn't count. Yeah.
So there's 6 events left, and 3 of them are still big money events. So.
Yeah, I guess it depends on whether or not I have anybody else.
Yep.
Because I'm not sure if I've used Hovland yet.
Cantlay usually plays well in the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah. It's. I guess it all depends, but yeah, if I still. It just depends if I have anybody left, but it doesn't matter. I'm just too far back anyway. So I have to I really should go for some long shots. All right. So that's going to wrap it up. And next week, again, we're going to be on Tuesday recording. Hopefully we'll have Jan on with us. We're going to break down the golf course. So that'll be fun. We'll have a whole bunch more Open Championship and Major Championship stats. We haven't talked about Major Championship historical stats. We'll throw that in, and we will also do what we usually do, and that's we'll go through a player list and probably have 10 of those and see what you guys would pick. We usually have 3 players, 10 3 groupings. We'll put that into the format. That should be fun. But check us out on Discord. We want to build that community up, and hopefully we'll continue our winning streak. We got 2 in a row.
That's right.
So we have to keep it going. Let's make it 3 in a row.
Let's do it. Excited for the early morning golf.
Yes, that's right. So I don't know what the major time difference is, but early on, usually it'll be a lot earlier, of course, on Thursday and Friday.
Right.
So yeah, wake up and watch golf. Should be a lot of fun. And Jared and I will be talking fantasy football real soon, so we'll keep you updated on that too. And maybe we'll have an update for everybody next week. So Jared, appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick. Good luck this week.
Yes. See everybody next week.